Building a home photography studio part 2. What's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. On this channel I talk about everything to do with food and drink photography, so if that interests you, click subscribe down below. This video is going to be part 2 in my series on how to build a home photography studio, something super important recently because we've all been working a lot more remote. And if you're thinking about starting a photography business in 2022, this series is going to be really helpful to kickstart your career. Last week's video was part 1 and I was talking all about choosing an area of your home to create your own home studio. This is obviously going to be different for everybody. Everybody's going to have different priorities and obviously different homes. If you didn't get to see that video, I would maybe recommend going to that one first. I'm going to leave it linked here and in the description below as well. If you want to just skip ahead, you already know where you want to do it, then keep watching. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about the equipment you're going to need to start your studio and a few little extra things to consider as well. Firstly, I'm going to be talking about the photography equipment that you're going to need for your studio. I say need, but everyone's going to have a slightly different need, so this is going to be quite generic. And I'm certainly not going to be talking about brands and makes and the things that you need to go out and buy right now. This is just a good idea for anybody looking to start their own studio. The first one might seem really obvious, but then it would be really strange if I didn't mention it. You're going to need a camera. If you're watching this video, I'm going to take a guess that you've already got yourself a camera, which is great. If you've got a camera, what you've got is going to work perfectly. If you haven't got a camera yet, then obviously that's going to be a big thing that you need to save and invest in. I'm not going to go into details with makes, models and all that sort of stuff. I've got the model I use and I've used it since I started photography and I've just never changed. That tends to happen a lot, especially as you get invested in lenses. I use a Nikon D750 and that is a full frame camera, a great option for anybody looking to buy one out there. You can buy it secondhand. If you are needing to buy a camera, I would recommend saving up to buying a full frame camera. I would definitely recommend going for a secondhand full frame before buying a new crop sensor camera. You're going to feel a lot less need in the future to upgrade your camera. The next thing you're going to need for your photography studio is lenses. The exact lenses you're going to need for your business is completely dependent on the style of photography you want to create. The different lenses are going to create much different images than different cameras. Different cameras with exactly the same lens on, not many people are going to be able to tell the difference. The different lenses are definitely where you're going to be able to add a lot more of your creativity and style to images. Some really common lenses in food photography would be 100 or 105mm macro lens, 50mm prime lenses, and a standard zoom, maybe 20 to 120 or 20 to 70mm zooms. The next piece of equipment you're going to need in your studio, and this one again might seem really obvious, but that is a laptop or computer. One thing laptops obviously have an advantage on over a standard sit-down computer is their portability, like to be able to move it around. So if you are setting up a studio in a part of your home that is going to need to be taken down every time you're setting up, a laptop's going to be better. What we use laptops for is editing images and then tethering as well. So tethering is a really good thing to do in a studio on a shoot because it's going to give you a big screen view of what's going on in your scene. I would definitely recommend laptops for tethering because they're going to be a lot more easy to move around, and if your scene's moving around, obviously if you've got to sit down like a standstill computer, it's not as easy to move about with you. The next piece of equipment you're going to need for your photography studio is a tripod. These are really important in many different areas of photography, but I would definitely say it's also very important in food, drink and product photography, which is the kind of studio I'm talking about setting up here. Tripods sit your camera on and keep it dead still. This is really important. One thing to think about when looking for tripods is having the ability to have it overhead. You can get some tripods that will do this already, so if you want one of them, look at that. Or you can get an extended boom arm to go on top of any sort of standard tripod. For this, you can also use things like goalposts, like background stands with a clamp on, or C-stands with a clamp on. The next piece of equipment to think about in your studio, guys, is light. So light is one of the most important things when it comes to photography. Absolutely all photography needs light. Whether this is natural light you're looking to use, or artificial light, it's going to be really important. I absolutely love artificial light. I just think it gives you a lot more control and you're not limited to what the sun is doing at that time of day or year. If you're looking at artificial light, you're going to need to look into buying the lights, buying the stands, and then modifiers as well. So these can be like soft boxes or hard reflectors. That's all things you're going to need to look at adding to your home studio. We do have a few ways we can further manipulate artificial light or even natural light. These come with things like flags, which are going to block out light, or reflectors, which are going to bounce a little bit more light into the scene, and then diffusers, which are going to soften light. These things can be used with artificial light and even natural light, so you are going to be able to have a little bit more of that, more control over what's happening with the sun. The next thing to think about is more the extra little things that go. So we've talked about equipment, but it's not all about equipment when it comes to food and product photography. We've also got things like backgrounds. Backgrounds are really important, and changing the background up can completely change a scene. Even if an image isn't taken on a specific photography background, whatever the image is sat on is the background. So even if that's your dining room table, have you got a really nice textured wood dining room table you can use as like a cohesive background in all of your images? It's also going to be a really good place to start shooting your images. Or if you do have photography backgrounds, you're going to need to get a few of them in, and you're also going to need to store them somewhere because they can start to take up a lot of room. I'm not going to go into the whole background toilet because that could just be a whole video in itself, but they are a really important part of food photography, as well as props. So if you've started to do any food photography, you'll understand that you go down this whole prop rabbit hole of buying props and seeing props in shops and the temptation to keep buying them more. Props are also very important in food photography. Even if you go with a more minimalist style, the cup you're using with your drink in and the plate your food is on, it's all still a prop. I would definitely encourage you guys to start quite simple. If you are just starting out with food photography, there's no need to go ahead and go and buy absolutely everything all at once. Just start with a few plates and a few glasses. If you are interested in some more tips on what props to buy to start with, check out this video up here, which I created on the, I think it was 10 props to get started with, it was something like that. And now we have to think about storing all of this stuff and equipment that we've come to collect. When it comes to your backgrounds, there's many ways to store your backgrounds, but it kind of depends what background you're going for. Obviously, the small vinyl or paper backgrounds are a lot easier to store than big handmade DIY backgrounds. Having somewhere that you can quickly see them and get them out is going to make it a lot more easier when shooting. The same comes to your props. Being able to see what you've got makes it a lot easier to pick them out. If your backgrounds or props are really hard to get to, they're probably going to get a little bit lost and forgotten about. Having open shelves like these ones and being able to see your props is going to make it a lot easier to sort of decide and pick what you're going to use when it comes to shooting. But this all takes up room. If you don't have a dedicated room for your photography equipment, you might need to borrow 1 or 2 cupboards in the kitchen to store all of your props. And your equipment and backgrounds might end up in a storage cupboard. Whatever works best for you in your situation, just make sure you're thinking about all this before you go out and start collecting hundreds of props. It needs somewhere to go. You're not going to want to have it all lying around on your dining room table for the next 3 years. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. If you do have any questions about creating your own home studio, let me know in the comments below and I'll definitely get to answering those. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!